And I saw Analyze This. I don't need the ramifications that could arise from treating someone like yourself.
Analyze This?
Yeah.
Come on, it's a fucking comedy.
Alright boys, it's April 1st, and you know what that means. Time to cover another piece of tangentially related Sopranos media. Today we're going to be looking at the mob comedy film, Analyze This. Starring Robert De Niro and Billy Crystal, the movie is about a mob boss who enters therapy in order to deal with his panic attacks. Now, you'll of course recognize that the premise of the film is the same as The Sopranos. What's even more of a coincidence is the fact that the movie came out in 1999, only a few months after The Sopranos premiered. In fact, when David Chase learned about the film during pre-production of season 1, he was worried that the coincidence would ruin the perception of his own show. Luckily though, Chase didn't need to worry, as watching this comedy film, it became clear that not all coincidences are funny. So, in this video, let's analyze this.
Hey, don't you want to analyze me no more?
The movie follows Dr. Ben Sobel, a psychiatrist in New York. Despite his successful practice, he's disillusioned with life, particularly his relationship with his father, who's also a psychiatrist. His one joy is that he's engaged to a beautiful young reporter from Miami named Laura, and is set to marry her in a few days. One night, he accidentally rear-ends a car being driven by mobsters. As they have a guy in the trunk, they don't want to deal with cops or insurance. Ben gives them his card anyway though in case they want compensation later. Meanwhile, Paul Vitti is a mob boss preparing for an upcoming meeting with all the bosses of the mafia. After his consigliere is killed, Paul begins to suffer from panic attacks. He seeks out a psychiatrist and is given Sobel's card from the previous night. He forces Ben to treat him, despite him wanting nothing to do with the mafia. Ben then leaves for Miami for his wedding. However, he's followed there by Vitti, who continues to suffer from psychological symptoms. The wedding is later interrupted when a hitman, sent to kill Vitti by his rival Primo, is thrown from a window into the wedding. After returning to New York, Ben is approached by the FBI, who observed him with Vitti in Florida and asked him to inform on him about the upcoming mob meeting. At first, Ben refuses, but after the FBI play him a doctored tape of Vitti threatening to kill him, he agrees to wear a wire. At dinner, Ben wears the wire in an attempt to get information about the meeting. However, after learning about how Paul's father died, he realizes the root of his panic attacks and how he can help him. He takes the wire off in the bathroom, but Vitti has learned that he's working with the FBI and taken to a secluded place to kill him. Before he can do it though, Ben gets him to confront his feelings over his father's death. Paul breaks down, but right at that moment, another group of hitmen arrive to kill him. Vitti's men manage to kill them, and he and Ben agree to go their separate ways. However, on the day of the meeting, Paul has another emotional breakdown. His men force Ben to go to the meeting in his place, pretending to be a mobster. I really don't know what the point of any of this is, as it's not even clear what the big meeting is even supposed to be about. Either way though, Paul eventually arrives and announces that he's worked through his trauma and will be retiring from the mob. Primo tries to kill him, however a shootout ensues and Ben ends up taking a bullet for Paul. The FBI then arrive and arrest all of the mobsters. Paul ends up serving a light 18 months and continues to see Ben as his psychiatrist. Ben and Laura dance to a serenade by Tony Bennett and roll credits. Oh boy, where do I even begin? This movie is absolute dog shit. Seriously, aside from the coincidental Soprano connection, there is nothing enjoyable about this film. The movie has so many structural problems that I honestly don't even know where to begin. For one thing, there are so many elements of the film that are brought up and never elaborated on again. For example, the rivalry between Vitti and Primo is underdeveloped. I have no idea why they hate each other, or what Primo even hopes to accomplish by killing Vitti. It's just this plot point introduced so that they can have some attempted hits, but it's so inconsequential that Primo ends up being killed off screen at the end of the movie. It's disappointing because they got the legendary Chaz Palminteri for the role, but they just don't do anything with his character. Or take Ben's relationship with his own father. They set up that the two don't get along, and that Ben has daddy issues since they went into the same career. But it's just never resolved. In fact, after the first scene with the dad, we never see him again. It's like the movie forgot that this was even a plot point. It's interesting that the movie is set more from the psychiatrist's perspective than the mobsters, the inverse of The Sopranos. But unfortunately, they don't develop Ben as a character. He doesn't really even form a bond with Vidi, which you think would be a natural story for the movie to follow. Two opposites who end up learning from each other and becoming friends. But Ben spends 90% of the movie trying to get out of treating Paul, and the end result is that he doesn't really have a character arc at all. Take the scene where he lies to his fiancée about treating Paul. In a normal movie, they would follow up with that and have her confront him about lying. Maybe they would fight and even break up, and Ben would have to change in order to win her back. But in this movie, they just never bring it up again. Even though she says she has a problem with mobsters and her wedding is ruined by them twice, she just goes along with everything. It's a missed opportunity for character development. I think a big part of the problem is the Florida section. It just feels like a diversion, and the movie would have been better spent staying in New York the entire time. We could have had more scenes of Ben interacting with Paul in his natural element, playing into the mafia angle more, and giving more time for development between the two. However, the biggest problem is that the movie is just not funny. The lines and the delivery are awkward, even from De Niro and Crystal. The scenes just drag on without any kind of punchline. There's only one funny moment in the entire film, and it's this.
You know what I do when I'm mad, Paul? I hit a pillow. Just hit the pillow. See how you feel.
There's your fucking pillow.
It's genuinely strange how the movie turned out so bad. In addition to having an outstanding cast, it was directed by Harold Ramis with a script that was co-written by Kenneth Lonergan. This guy has writing awards out the wazoo, so he clearly understands storytelling. Maybe it was a rush job, but either way, it's amazing that so much talent failed to produce anything of value. But that's not where the story ends, because this movie actually got a sequel. Due to the unexpected financial success of the first movie, they decided to make another film. However, this one didn't do as well as the first, and ended up losing them money at the box office. Analyze That was released in 2003, and picks up a few years after the first. Despite the fact that Ben said he was going to continue to treat Paul in prison, they haven't spoken in a few years. He's also dealing with the death of his own father, and is self-medicating on drugs. As Paul nears the end of his prison sentence, there are multiple attempts on his life. In order to get out of prison, Paul acts insane. The FBI called Ben in to perform a psychiatric test, and after confirming that he's insane, the FBI approved Paul being released from prison into Ben's custody as a patient, with the threat that if Paul goes back to crime, Ben will be held personally responsible. As part of his probation, Paul has to find work. Struggling to fit into life as a civilian, he eventually lands a job as a consultant on a mob TV show. However, a rival family, the Regazis, are still out to kill him, and his own family, now being run by a woman named Patty LaPresti, pressure him to return to the life.
A fucking woman boss?
So what do you want?
Never happened in the States. Never.
Meanwhile, Ben learns that Paul is planning a heist to rob gold from the Federal Repository. He's forced to go along with the heist after barging into the meeting. They manage to successfully pull off the robbery, but some of their guys are revealed to be traitors for the Regazis. Ben ends up knocking one of them out, and then finally addressing his own feelings about his father's death. It's later revealed that the whole plan was a setup to frame the Regazis for the robbery. They're all arrested, and Paul is given a pass from the FBI for helping to stop a gang war. He and Ben part as friends, and then the movie ends. Overall, I'd say the sequel is better than the first film, but not by much. It has the exact same problems as the first. Though they kind of address the issue between Ben and his dad from the first film, other conflicts still go unresolved. They do the same thing with Laura that they did in the first film. She's pissed off that a gangster is living in her house, and it's implied that there are marriage problems between her and Ben. And then they just drop it. No confrontation, no resolution. She just rolls over and accepts it again, and Ben doesn't have to learn anything about relationships. They also introduce another rival mob family with unclear motivations. Again, I have no idea why they want to kill Paul or what their plan is. It's just another vague take over all of New York conflict, and the villain gets like 2 scenes in the movie. Again, it's a missed opportunity because they had a good setup from the first film. Just make the rival family the Sedone family from the first movie. Then the conflict makes sense because they want revenge for Primo, and suddenly you have some actual character development going on in your film. Also, the whole story with the mob television show doesn't go anywhere. I actually thought for a moment that the whole thing was a dig at The Sopranos for making fun of the first movie, but I don't think that's it. Or if it is, they didn't do a good job of actually satirizing the show. Again, the end result is a bunch of awkward comedy and no payoff. I know some of you are probably saying that I'm expecting too much from these films. I mean, I think it's fair to expect a comedy to be funny, which these movies aren't. But The Sopranos prove that you can actually have good character writing in addition to comedy with a subject matter like this. Now, I'm not expecting writing on the level of The Sopranos, but I wanted more than what seemed like a screenplay that was written by Christopher.
The roof is soft tar. That'll work. The roof is soft tar.
Okay.
Overall though, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. Let me know what tangentially related piece of Sopranos media you want me to cover next year, and stay tuned for more content coming soon. Analyze D's nuts. Matt Joyce, Uncle Mike, Sam Cedarland, Celery Man, Cheshire, Brandon Taylor, James Johnson, and Wolfgang.